What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Podcast of Seagull, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the continued. My name is Joseph.
My name's Ryan.
I'm Marissa.
I'm Manira.
And on this week's episode, we're going to be talking about a sequel that's celebrating its 50th anniversary, and that would be The Godfather 2. But before we get into that, we have to start with the 1972 classic The Godfather, directed by Francis Ford Coppola, $7 million budget, with a $291 box office, which was desperately needed by Paramount Pictures at the time. When me and Mooney watched the other day, she wasn't aware that it was a book, which Paramount secured for $9 million to make it into a feature film. And with all that being said, let's jump right into The Godfather. Who wants to take this? I could talk about this movie for hours. I could just spend an hour on this first one.
Mooney has my notes.
Moody's holding out.
I was like going based off just primary,
I'm so sorry.
just prior knowledge of the movie.
I don't want to go first.
I feel okay.
Someone please take it.
Oh no, you go. We did it at the same time. I know. I was just gonna say I feel like there's so many things. This is another movie that we're talking about where I feel like there's just so much history and so many different like views to come at this where I feel like any of us could start, but then it's like, where do you start with this movie?
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I know that normally you bring this sort of trivia to the movies that we do. This is an important movie because it's another movie we've done where it's in the Library of Congress for something.
Yeah, it was preserved by the Library of Congress.
Of course it is.
Just the first one or all three?
I want to say both are.
Maybe all three.
I know for a fact the first one is. I'd have to double check. I don't believe the third one is, but I would feel kind of like it would seem kind of silly to do the first two and not the third, and why not just do the whole saga? But I mean, like, if you've seen the third, which we're not going to really touch on, I believe, at all, maybe briefly, but the third one I just feel like is not necessary.
All three of them are preserved.
All three of them? Okay.
Well, yeah, that makes
I mean,
sense.
it would make sense as a saga.
saga.
Yeah, it's a saga, but I mean, I get it. Yeah, like, I think it's, culturally significant.
I'll throw just a throwaway fun fact as my one that I have. That Mario Puzo, who did the screenplay, did such a good job on it that Francis Ford Coppola wanted it to be. That's why it's Mario Puzo's
The Godfather
Part 1, Part 2, because it was so close to the original source material that he felt that he needed
credit
on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he would have gotten
at the
credit.
end of the day, it was like, no, I'm gonna retreat it so much that none of his stuff really left in however you want to say it, but such a good job that he was like, nah, he deserves credit on it. He did a good
Absolutely.
I will say, riffing off of that, one of the fun facts that I had about the author is that he coined the term The Godfather, and it wasn't normally used in like Italian American culture until then. So now it's like a predominant thing in like Italian American like mafia kind of like families. So I thought that was interesting that he coined the term, and now it's just so significant in their culture that I was like, oh, it's actually kind of cool.
Which is wild because they were so against it at the time when they were going to make this film, or like the producers for this film. The fact that they made like a whole series about the making of The Godfather and kind of went through all the issues that because this movie was, and Francis always says it was a bitch to make. They threatened to fire him multiple times. He threatened to quit.
They fired somebody,
sure,
and then brought him back because they're like, all right.
He threatened to quit because they didn't want Al Pacino to play Michael. They thought he was too short. They offered it to Jack Nicholson at one point. He rejected it because he said Italian American should be playing this role, not me.
Yeah.
They offered it to Burt Reynolds as well, but Marlon Brando was like, if you give it to him, I'm out.
Yeah, because they weren't.
Damn, why?
They don't like each other.
They don't. I didn't do the research
but
about
why.
What their beef is,
I want to know why.
There's beef.
But
if you know the beef, let us know.
And
I want to know.
Where he was like, I quit. Like, I don't want to be a part of this if he's going to get the role of Michael.
Ooh, I'm so intrigued right now.
They offered it to James Caan to be Michael, and Francis didn't want that because, again, Francis was always like, I want an Italian American to play it. Like, he was dead set on it being Al Pacino, and Paramount was not having it at the time.
Yeah, Paramount wanted James Caan to be.
Yeah.
They originally offered it to him.
That's what they settled with. He was like, he could be Sonny, and you could have Al as Michael. Like, he's like, James has to be in this film. Paramount was not going to move off of him not being in the film. And Francis was like, well, then fine, then Al needs to be Michael. And that's where they settled with at one point. But the studio was just pushing for anybody other than Al Pacino being Michael. And it was a height reasoning for Paramount.
5'6", by the way.
Yes.
Nice, I'm taller than him.
Yeah, and then Brando was a headache
I'm
to
not.
get as well because he didn't really like the heads at Paramount, and that will play a significant role in the second one for a scene that he was supposed to be in and did not show up for, and we will get to that when we talk about part 2. But yeah, so the movie production was just a mess because the studio was so involved, and Francis wanted to cook and do his own thing, and they were just like, no, we paid so much money for the rights to the book.
Yeah.
We want to be involved as much as we can. So there's many times where Francis quit, got fired, and it was just a shit situation that ended up working out in the long run, obviously. But yeah, the behind the scenes is so interesting to me just because of how much of a mess it was just to make this movie.
Yeah.
To the point where I think Francis had to meet with certain members of the mafia in New York City just to get this movie to happen because the mafia was afraid that they were going to give insider secrets into how the mafia works. But Francis Ford Coppola never really wanted to make it about just Italian mafia warfare. Mm-hmm. He wanted it to be more about the family.
And that's how I see this entire saga as being. It is not a mafia movie. It's a character study. And it's not necessarily like, yes, it obviously delves into like him being a part of the mafia, but you're not necessarily like, it's his job. It's not really like, it's not, okay, maybe I shouldn't say it's his job because it is more of a way of life for them. But like, this is a character study in which you see, especially once we get into the second one, like this is the rise and fall of two different men. You know, like you're seeing, you know, like basically these actions, and, you know, we'll get into it more with the second one. But I mean, like the first one is just like your standard introduction of like a man, like you're immediately immersed into this family. Like there's no like, I don't feel like there's any like kind of like backstory that you're given. There's no like dialect of just kind of like, oh, this is so and so, and like, oh, you remember he's Uncle Tommy's like blah 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 blah. Like you're just immediately thrown into like, oh, somebody's getting married. Who's getting married? Oh, it's this guy's daughter. Oh, okay. Like, well, obviously he's the Godfather. People are coming to see him, and like, you know, for like that was one of my first notes too. Is just like what an introduction to such a legendary character. It's just like you're, you know, he's obviously like just this calm, cool, collected sitting guy, like he has like the cat, and he's just kind of like, you know, hanging out like, yeah, you guys are here to see me and you're here to do this thing and you're paying tribute, and like he knows he has the power, kind of thing. And it's just, you know, it's nice to be just automatically immersed into this world, this family of like what they're doing and who they are.
And yeah, and I love that first scene because it's like he's not really asking much from the Undertaker. Mm-hmm. It's mostly like, you don't come to me as a friend. My wife is godmother to your daughter. Mm-hmm. But you don't come to me as a friend. You come to me for a favor. But there's no back and forth. Like, you don't want to be like cool with me. You don't even acknowledge me as the Godfather. Yeah. And then the Undertaker eventually does cave, and he was like, Godfather, will you be my friend? And that it's a power move. Yeah. And it really establishes like where he's at and why people come to him for those favors. Obviously in Italian families, when like they do have a wedding, that is something that does happen. Mm-hmm. So I do like that they added that. Like I feel like for the Italian culture, I feel like Francis did a really good job promoting certain Italian aspects, where it wasn't disrespectful to the Italian culture. Mm-hmm. It just showed it to a wider range audience. Yeah. So I do love that beginning scene because you could tell he's a powerful dude, and like he could make these things happen, but he needs something out of it. Not necessarily a favor, which he will ask at some point, but it's like don't just come to me when you need something. Just be my friend, and then I will do this favor for you if we have this relationship. So it establishes Vito as somebody that actually does care for people, but at some point you gotta do something for him too.
Well, yeah, it's a balance of he's looking for a balance of friendship, which like in any like good, I feel like his is more so with the mafia. You're looking at a balance between like not only a business, right, because they're doing their dealings or whatever that they do business wise, but then it's also like family involved, friendship involved. So I think it speaks for both of that too, with like with family, there's a balance, with friendship, there's a balance. Just in business, it's the same thing. You're employed, they pay you for your work. Mm-hmm. Friendship, it's a give and take. Same thing in relationships, give and take, family, give and take kind of thing. So I feel like, you know, him asking for these things and saying, hey, I'm going to need a favor from you is very much alive in like any aspect of someone's life, whether it be work, family, friendship, whatever. Right. That there always should be a balance of like, you know, I ask something or you bring something, and then you know,
I scratch your back, you scratch mine. Yeah.
Which any great relationship should have.
Yeah, it's a trade-off, you know. It's and so that's what I loved about that film. So I always viewed this whole saga more so the first two. The third one, that's a different discussion for a different day. But
we'll definitely get there
we'll definitely
eventually,
get
but
there,
That's
yes.
getting its own episode.
That's a whole thing. Yeah, that's one that we could just dive into for another time. But I always viewed the two movies as a Shakespearean tragedy. And what I mean by that, this first film, and I'm going to kind of dive into the second one a little bit, not too much. First film starts with this giant wedding where the family is together, united, strong, powerful. Second one ends with Michael by himself. And it's just the ending of a family almost. And Michael is the only one that doesn't want to be a part of it. But it's almost not forced upon, but it's his destiny in a way. And one of the scenes I love where I feel like he views that he could do this is the hospital scene. When he goes to the hospital to see his father. And
that's the scene.
Yeah. The security's gone. And Enzo, the baker, comes with the flowers. He's like, but stand outside. Pretend you're putting your hand in your jacket to make it seem like we're threatening and we're here to protect my dad. And Enzo's always like, I'll do anything for your father.
Yeah.
But the one reason where I'm like, oh, Michael's locked in now and he's going to be part of this family is when Enzo is done and the car drives away, he's shaking.
Yeah.
To like light a cigarette. And Michael isn't.
If you
and
watch,
Michael,
the hands where he goes to light the cigarette,
and Michael's
it's very
looking at
steady.
him and looking at himself too, kind of looking at him and being like, I'm not. And I think that's when Michael realizes that I could do this. And even more so once the cop hits him, it's more so like, well, it's not personal. It's business.
Yeah.
And even James Caan's character, Sonny, he's just like, look at him. He's taking it personal. Blah, blah. It's like, it's not personal, Sonny. Like, this is a cop that's wrapped in, like, the mafia. So,
But I feel like Michael is personal, and that's where like
Yes.
we see his like fall and his
Yes.
downside is because everything is
he
so
contradicts
personal.
what he does say in the first one, but it is personal because he wants revenge.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's just like it's a roller coaster for Michael of just like you see like, you know, from the beginning he's, you know, trying to, or in the second one they mention him going to college and everything like that in that flashback scene. And then he gives up the college so that he can go be in the military, and everybody's kind of like, wait, what? Are you like, and kind of people support him in a way. Like Tom kind of seems slightly supportive.
And I think that adds to between like Tom and his relationship, and that's what we'll get to like further down the line in that scene where he's like, me and your father have talked about your future, and Michael responds with like you and my father talked about my future.
Yeah.
And I feel like that adds a wrinkle to it.
I mean, we'll get to we'll
get to it. Yeah, but I think the first one really does establish the players in this game, how this family is gonna fall apart. I think Sonny gets real messy because he's a hothead, and that does add.
Yeah, I put hot shot.
That's-
I put hot shot on mine.
He's just beating up Connie's husband.
Carlo.
Yeah, there you go.
Beating the shit out of him.
Yeah.
It's very much
Protective.
Yeah.
Brother,
I
big
warned
brother.
you once, twice, however many times.
Yeah.
It's fucking.
And mind you, this is like spoilers, obviously. By the way, that's his friend. That's his best friend that he introduces Connie to. Which, by the way, Connie is played by Talia. I want to say Talia. It starts with an S. I forget her name, but she's Francis Ford Coppola's sister.
Oh, in real life.
In real life,
Interesting.
that's his sister.
I feel like there's something else with her that I
She's
looked
been
up.
in the
She's some
stuff. Yeah.
No, I feel like she's like related to. I might be thinking of somebody else.
And for everybody that's like angry about Sophia being the third one, she's also in the first one as
She
Connie's
is.
child.
Yeah, I had to tell Marissa that like she was in the first one. And she was like, what? I was like, yeah,
Talia
she plays.
Shire.
There you go, Talia Shire.
She plays Michael.
She's in
And
something
"What?"
else
And I was
too.
like,
She
"Well,
looks
she's a
so
baby."
familiar.
Yeah, she's the one that they're baptizing in that
don't know.
scene, which is a phenomenal scene too, when Michael takes out the 5 heads of the family.
Can we talk about how like the pretty gene skips in the sibling of the family? We've got like James Caan, who's like looking sharp, looking great, and then you've got like the next up Fredo,
The Michael,
and then you got
Connie.
Michael, handsome, and then you've got like Connie, arguable. Like she looked great at the wedding, but like other than that, like
She just gets gaudier and gaudier
Do you
as
recognize
the
her from
movies progress.
Yeah.
oh, she's Adrian.
Yes.
She's Adrian and
That's how I know her. Okay, that's why. God, how did I not get
And
that?
then while we're on the topic, like the Ford Coppola family is very expansive.
Yes.
in Hollywood.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't have to go into detail about it, but like if you've seen something, chances are
They're
goes
involved.
back.
That's pretty
Somehow.
significant.
Yes.
Can I ask a side question to something that you mentioned earlier? And I maybe just not am aware of like Italian culture the way that I'm aware. I'm not claiming to be aware of any
Please
kind of
ask
culture
us the
thing.
question.
What's the whole idea behind like the asking of favors on like the day of the daughter's wedding? Do we know like the lore behind
it's a
that?
sign. So it's not just asking for the favor. You're supposed to thank the father for inviting you to said wedding.
Which is fair. Like
Yes.
that seems right in any culture.
But that's your window of time if you need to ask for a favor.
But why? Because he's so generous?
Yes,
Because it's
because that's
a joyous day
He will,
kind of thing?
He will
Oh,
have
okay.
the time to be like, it's my daughter's wedding. I am inviting you to said wedding. if you come and thank me for being invited to said wedding and also ask for a favor, and in between,
we could talk business.
But there's moments in that film too where Marlon Brando's Vito was like, how many more do we have to do? Like, I want to go enjoy my daughter's wedding.
Oh yeah,
and
which
like
he
Luca
should.
Brazzi's outside practicing his lines.
I love that scene where he's like practicing.
So
it's so great.
Fun fact, I guess, if you want to, while we're on the topic of it, is that he messed up his lines when he's in the middle of talking to Vito.
Yeah.
And he's like, your daughter's wedding, thank you for inviting me. He literally fucked up his lines in that scene. And then they kept it because they're like, no, it's because you're nervous to see the Vito, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then they filmed later on where he's outside practicing, like, thank you for inviting me. Mm-hmm. That was filmed later to show, like, him trying to remember his line.
I was actually really, like, I know, like, obviously we're going to talk about spoilers, but, like, I was actually really affected by his death in the movie.
It's brutal.
Like, it's brutal. I'm just, like,
out.
I'm sad for him. Like, I'm not saying he's, like, a great, innocent man. I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I just, for how much we get of him, I just felt something for his character.
I do feel, though, at that point, that Vito is losing his touch a little bit. They're supposed to get into the drug business. Every business evolves. Yeah. And he wants to be in specific business. That's why Sonny is the one to be like, we should take that deal. And he's like,
what? He's like, no.
And Tom too.
Would have taken that deal too.
It's beneficial to us.
So him sending Luca to be like, oh, say that you're unhappy with the family. Like, Vito, at this point of the film, is so old school because he's so afraid to lose the politicians and the judges that he has in his back pocket. He's very careful, but he's not sharing with the rest of the families, which ends up being his downfall at some point because he gets fucking blasted. And I do love too that scene where he does get shot. Fredo just being Fredo fumbles the gun, and you're just like, oh.
There's so many, like, I feel like every time I watch these movies, I watch a different character closely, and I feel like this viewing when we rewatched it, like, I was more specifically focused on like Fredo and just kind of like seeing his character be like the sniveling little coward that he was, and just like all of his little bits here and there. So
I love when Vito comes back from the hospital and they tell him it was Michael that shot the cop, and like Vito starts crying. He tells him get out, and then Fredo still goes back in and just sits there quietly while Vito's just looking towards like the wall, just like defeated because like he says in the first one too, I never wanted this for you, Michael. I wanted you to be Congressman Corleone. I wanted you to be Senator Corleone. Like, I never wanted you to be a part of this.
Which is crazy to me because like in the second one, I feel very differently about it. Like, I don't get that vibe from him at all.
That he doesn't want to be a part of it? Or
that he wants him to be a part of it. Like, I always feel like in this movie that Michael was always supposed to be the one. Like, I know that Sonny's the older brother, but, like, I think from the beginning, and, like, even that's why, like, in the second scene, like, you see, like, that scene where Fredo's sick and they're, like, taking care of, like, his sickness or whatever. Like, they're showing from the beginning that, like, Vito always knew that Fredo was weak. We always knew that Sonny was the hothead. Yeah. Like, obviously, Connie's not going to take over because she's the youngest and the daughter, right? Yeah. So, like, from the beginning, I feel like Michael was always supposed to be the one to take over.
Yeah, because he felt, I think, I feel like Vito kind of accepts that too because he won't do anything unless Michael's there. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that established
the whole time he's like, where's Michael?
The wedding
When's
Picture.
Michael's here?
Yeah, and Sunny's like,
it doesn't matter, Pop. Yeah, like, it doesn't matter.
We'll wait till your brother comes. And even when they do take the picture and Michael wants Kay to be in the picture, you can see Sonny kind of bitching to Vito, and Vito's just like,
whatever,
let him do what he wants to do.
Yeah, let him do it.
And he is a hero because he went to the war, and I know they were against that, but that's what. And I feel like because Michael went out of his way to pick his own destiny at the time, I think Vito was like, I don't have to lay out the road for him. He'll figure it out on his own. And I think a big line in this film was when Vito, and I always quote it to Mooney, I was like, there just wasn't enough time, Michael. There just wasn't enough time. And I feel like that's very real in that moment for Vito and the family. But I think that plays a big role in the second one with Hyman Roth. Because they're just squeezing the time that they have left. And power is hard to give up. So I feel like that's a big part of like mafia shit that when he brings that up, he's just like, there's just not enough time. But he doesn't want to leave Michael with the burden of all the stuff that is going to happen.
Yeah.
And he's trying to be there as much as he can, which is like the second to last scene that we see Marlon Brando as Vito. He's telling him he's trying to tell him like who the traitor's going to be.
Yeah.
And he's trying to give him enough information knowing that he probably doesn't have enough time anyways.
Yeah.
So it is rough because he doesn't have Sonny. He can't rely on Vito. Tom, he's already kind of taken out of the picture because he's now wartime concierge. So he's trying to figure out how to establish his own family, but then you're also kind of changing things that your dad had in place.
Yeah.
Like Clemenza, he's telling him to kind of sit out of the fucking war, but Clemenza's like, I'm gonna end up falling under the banner of these guys, and I don't want to. And Vito's like, no, Michael's the Don now. If you love me and you respect me, listen to Michael. Yeah. So like that second half of that film, he's trying to establish him as the guy he's supposed to be. I just don't think Michael goes about it the right way, because as much.
But is that necessarily, based on what you just said, is that necessarily Michael's fault? Because he obviously wasn't given enough information within enough time frame.
Yeah, because he wasn't part of the family business. And
yeah, because we're seeing, like, obviously, like, with, I think, the background of, like, the war experience that he's had, and then just obviously knowing him as, like, a person, we see how, like, calm, cool, collected, steady, like, with that scene where, like, you know, the guy's shaking, the baker's shaking, but he's, like, super calm and cool, of just like, no, we got this, like, don't worry about it, just pretend like you're supposed to be here. We know he can handle it under the pressure. So, like, I don't think it's necessarily like he wasn't Fredo. He didn't, like, you know, panic under the pressure, and he wasn't Sonny. He didn't, like, get angry and lash out. He's very, like, calm, cool, collected, like, dilated in. Like, so was it necessarily something that he did, or was it just not enough information?
I don't think it was
or
enough.
People.
It might have been that, like, he wasn't involved from the get-go. Like, he makes his own path. But also, I feel like the first time we see him being a hothead is that first meeting with Mo Green, where, like, he could have negotiated that, but the way he goes at Mo, being like, how much can we buy you out? And it's like, well, I already talked to the other families, they'll fund me and I can still have my casino. And, like, you can see Michael's inexperience play in that role, where he's just like, well, I'm just gonna get it anyways. So it's like, and then he cares more about him slapping up Fredo.
Yeah,
because, like, Michael is very family oriented and wants the best for, like, the fam, even though it does slip up at some point. But, like, I feel like that first scene with Mo Green and Michael, it's like, there's the inexperience. Where Vito would have kept it calm and cool and figured out a deal, give him an offer he can't refuse. Or Michael's like, it's this or nothing. And I think that plays a role into Michael's inexperience.
Yeah.
I don't want to ramble all the time. Please. I'm like, I can keep going, dude.
I was like, I feel like Mooney.
Yeah.
I know Joseph loves this movie, so I'm kind of, like, more curious to see, like, what your thoughts are, even if they might break Joseph's heart.
I think I already broke Joseph's heart about this movie.
Okay. In your defense, before, and I'll let you speak in a minute, but I'll preference it with. Well, no, I'll preference it with this. I can defend you if you are not 100% fan of The Godfather, because I will say these are long movies. So it is definitely, like, you know, it's very autobiographical kind of feeling. So, like, it's long. So if you're not in it and you're not feeling the story, like, I can 100% see how somebody's like, all right, this is kind of, let's go. So is that why you feel how you feel?
Yes and no. So I think with the first one, I've seen these movies probably like 4 to 5 times with you. And
nice.
The first few times that I watched it, I was just like, it's long. Like, I'd rather do other things. Like, yeah. I always watch it while doing something, whether it's I'm reading a book while he's watching it, playing on my Switch. Like, I'm always doing something. I never have physically sat down and just watched the full movie. That being said, the first one for me didn't really grab my attention as much as the second one did. We'll get into the second when we get into the second one. I think for me, for the first one, I was very bored in the beginning. Like, I know you mentioned, like, how iconic it is. Like, he's just this, I was just asking, like, who's this? When did we meet him? What's the significance between everything?
Yeah, your biggest thing was, like, what role do they play? Who, where? And I'm like, you gotta let the story.
Well, because, yeah, and I feel like that's kind of like an older cinema thing, is that, like, older cinema didn't have, like, all of this filler, right? Like, they don't have this, like, oh, do you remember when your Aunt Tony, and they're telling you instead of showing you. Like, older cinema, and that's why older cinema is really great, is because they show you, they don't tell you. So yes, in the beginning you have no idea who these people are, but that's the great thing, is that this is a storytelling piece. So they eventually, you will find out, and they will tell you through showing,
which is basically why for me I enjoyed the second one more than the first one,
because you kind of already knew what's going on.
It kind of pieces a lot of the questions that I had when I would ask him, like, wait, I don't understand. He's like, just wait, we'll get to the second one, you'll understand.
Yeah, because your biggest thing was like, why is Vito the Don? Like, why is he? And I'm like, well,
just like,
we'll
well,
get
what
there.
happened?
Yeah.
Too.
But I mean, to me, like for this was the one time that I physically sat down. I was like, okay, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to do nothing else but watch it. And I was watching it. I put my phone away. I was just, you can ask him. I gave him.
I know. I was like, how many times should you pick up her phone?
I didn't have my phone. I gave it to him.
No. He picked it up like 3 times.
Okay.
I had to do one of these. Like, I'm not explaining this later. I'm like, you gotta just let it.
I also fell asleep a little bit, but you know, it's a different story. I was really tired. I was in a food coma. We just had pasta, so.
That's true.
Delicious pasta.
We did. I will say though, I know I've given this movie a lot of hate from previous watchings. I didn't hate it as much this time around. I feel like after like knowing that it was a book and like doing my research, because I looked into the history of it and everything before we watched it, and then I was like, oh, that's actually like an interesting fact. Like the whole thing, like we talked about the significance of like the oranges and everything in the movie. I read an interview that Francis Ford Coppola did, and he was just like, since the movie was filmed like very dark and stuff, somebody brought oranges on set and it just stood out nicely that's why they used orange. So it was just an accidental nod to like oranges being used as a symbol of death in the movie, but it worked. It looked nice on camera, so he was like, yeah, let's just use it. So I feel like little things that I read about the movie kept me interested. I was like, okay, let me just continue watching it. It's just,
Is that where you guys are drinking old fashions right now with orange peels in them? Sorry, I just thought about that.
I do understand the significance of this movie and why obviously it's like preserved and everything. I understand why a lot of people consider it to be one of their top 5, top 10, whatever greatest movies. I do think the cinematography and the acting was phenomenal in these movies, in the first and the second one. The third one, from what I've seen of the third one so far.
Third one's rough.
It's so long. I do find myself like losing interest a little bit just because of how long it is, and I understand why it is long because, again, older movie.
You're telling a story. Yeah, you're telling a story.
I understand that, but I feel like even movies nowadays, like once you reach like a certain time limit, like in the theaters, like, okay, this movie's going on forever. Like, when can I leave? Like, I need to leave. Like, this is like I just physically cannot sit still for that long.
I remember telling you like Oppenheimer's runtime, and you were just like, no.
Yeah, I was already fidgeting like halfway through Oppenheimer, and it's like I need to leave. I just can't sit still for that long.
I feel like I can if it's like if it's good storytelling and it's like I said, like, yeah, if it's like
me.
if it's immersing me in the world and I feel like I'm there or I'm a part of it, like I can be in it. Because like I remember the first time I watched The Godfather, it was like my summer of like it was like my 8th grade year or something like that, and I decided to watch like a bunch of like mobster. So I watched like all 3 Godfathers. I watched
Godfather.
Well, because I was gonna say Goodfellas, because I did watch Goodfellas. Yeah, I watched Goodfellas. I watched Casino. I watched all of them in like 1 week, and I know. And I just like I didn't have a phone back then, showing age, but I was just immersed. Like the first 2, especially. The third one did kind of lose me. Obviously, we'll get there, but like I remember just being so like captivated by like who is this man, how did he come to power, what's the family dynamic. Like where, like who's the villain, how is this gonna work, where's this going, and then like the scene where they shoot Sonny, like that like blew my mind. I wasn't like, you know, it took me by surprise kind of thing.
There were certain scenes that like grabbed my interest that I was like, okay, wait, what happened? Let me just continue watching. Like the Sonny like dying, I didn't expect him to die the way he did, and not necessarily whatever it was, like the toll.
Oh, but they stopped him. Yeah.
Because they butchered my boy.
Yeah, that one. And then the one scene that always, I hate watching it. It's the scene with the horse head.
I love that scene.
I hate that. It's great.
Scene. I think.
I mean, it's not real.
It is a real horse head.
Is it really?
Is
yeah.
It
no. Is it really?
No way.
Yes.
No.
Hold on.
Google that. Jamie, pull it up.
Go ahead, bring that up.
No, I love that scene because I think it establishes how dangerous this family could be. And that's the offer you can't refuse. I think that's what establishes what they could. Oh, that
read
is
this word for
fucking
word.
Oh, it is that.
Yes.
Damn, Francis.
Read.
How was the horse head acquired? That's more my question.
I just like that he spends so much time being like, "Yo, this is my
Oh,
horse.
okay.
It's a great horse. Blah blah blah. I did this. Blah 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 blah."
So they
is the first
technically
mistake,
murdered
what
a
would you
horse.
say?
Yeah, and then Tom's
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah,
Technically
just
murdered a
mental
horse.
note.
and I'm
If you
gonna
guys
write
didn't
this
know
in my
I
book.
had this as my fun fact, but I didn't know if everyone knew it. So it was a real horse head.
I know that.
It was a racehorse that was going to be slaughtered. That Francis Ford Coppola was like, let's bring it. Brought the head in a freezer box and placed it on the bed. So,
Delicious.
the actor whose name I don't know, in the
Doesn't
scene,
matter.
so whenever he practiced that scene, it was a prop. They never told him it's a real horse head.
It's actually great.
When
I
that
love that.
scene was filmed. So his scream is a genuine
love it.
scream. Reaction to finding out it's a real horse head.
I just love that when it pans out and it's the outside of the house and you still hear him like in the distance.
Yeah, in the distance.
We're watching that movie and I was telling Mooney, I was like, your buddies one day just stuffing everywhere.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Because she wasn't watching it. I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm
'Cause
just going to wake up and be like,
I knew it was a real horse head, and it just creeped me out. And I was like, I don't want to watch this. I like horses.
it's a great scene. It
It's like a
establishes the
fuzzy Stitch head in
yeah,
the
just
bed.
the stuffing just everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just like, no.
And I
She's
told
just
Nah.
like reaches in the bed, pulls out a little stuffing.
I want to say, don't they do that in some? Because I'm
It's been
well, yeah.
fun,
Because so I'm glad. Like I feel like this kind of segues into like how culturally significant The Godfather is, because obviously so many movies have parodied or like kind of made homage to The Godfather. Like and like even like I know I Love Family Guy. Like they do Godfather stuff all the time. And like there's always so many lines from The Godfather. Obviously, like make him an offer he can't refuse.
Talking about Satan.
Yeah, talking about going to the mattresses. Like even like in You Got Mail, there's like the whole scene where they're going back and he's like, go to the mattresses, and she's like, what is that? And he's like, watch The Godfather. And there's like a whole scene dedicated to like her watching The Godfather and doing the whole going to the mattresses thing. So I feel like this is another perfect example.
I've always
of
seen
how
them
it's-
mimiking the final shot of the film when Kay's looking at him and the door's closing. They did it like in South Park in The Simpsons when he was like, "Don't ask me about my business," and then like they come in and kiss his hand, and she's kind of looking like at the door, and then the door slowly closes.
Yeah.
and she just closes it on her face, and then just credits. I feel like a lot of shows have mimicked that moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, the like culture significance is big. I mean, it's. I mean, I feel like a lot of people when you talk about mafia movies, more so, or just movies in general, especially storytelling wise, they always bring this film up.
Yeah.
It's one of those movies that has lasted a lifetime of just. It's a must watch. Like the first time I watched this movie I was 6 years old. I shouldn't be able to sit there and watch 3 hours of
I feel
this
like I might be a little young to watch this movie.
No,
but
my grandpa was like, my grandpa showed me Shining when I was like 4. And I was
also very young
it's
to have
also
watched
very
that
young.
movie.
I remember everybody being upset about it, but I'm glad he did because I'm just like a 6-year-old should not be able to sit there and be mesmerized by a film with that much shit going on for 3 hours. And I was just because even at that time the storytelling was just so impactful to me because I'm like, I like this shit. I like what they're going with it. I've always been a big fan of just the storyline and of Vito and Michael and Sonny and Fredo, and just I love how it carries on through. Like this, it's my Thanksgiving tradition. I watch both movies every Thanksgiving because it's just in me to watch those films just because it's also it's a Christmas movie if you think about it. Because when Vito gets shot,
I think I said that when we watched the first one.
both are too. There's both Christmas scenes in both
Christmas and
films.
New
Yeah.
And New Year's.
New Year's.
The scene where Vito gets shot, like Tom is shopping for Christmas stuff, and so is Michael. And there's a scene where Kay is like, "What do you want for Christmas?" And he's like, "I already have you." It's a sweet moment. And I feel like that's the last sweet moment until shit hits the fan. You're like, damn.
Yeah, that's where shit goes south.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I will try to ask this so it doesn't get too personal on a public platform, but do you feel connected to this movie because it's very family involved?
Yeah.
And it like that's the connection is like it makes you feel for like a family thing.
Yes, because that was my reasoning for my grandpa making me watch it.
Yeah.
Just to be like, this is what it is.
So like you not only have like just an admiration for like the film itself, but like it's also like close to home kind of thing.
Yes.
Because I feel like that's where, and then we kind of discussed it before the podcast, but like why, and we'll discuss it more later, but why movies that are like nostalgic that we watched as kids are so like we cherish them, even though they like not this film, but like some films where we're like, man, I really love like Swan Princess, right? Like
Short Circuit.
It's a garbage movie, but like well, no, but it's like you
swore by it.
Like you're like, no, this is one of the best movies ever. Like we met somebody who's like, oh no, I loved that movie. like, oh, I saw your podcast and loved that movie, and then it's like not a great movie, but like, you know, you swear by it because it, you know, it's nostalgic and it holds a place in your heart, kind of thing.
Yeah.
100%. So just wonder if like that's, you know, because it is like, to me, like it's very family oriented and it touches a lot on like family. So.
Well,
what are your thoughts? I don't want
everybody who looked at me at the time.
Well, because you like put your mic down.
My time to shine. As far as like the length of the movie goes, I was very surprised to hear that, because knowing Francis Ford Coppola and like say Apocalypse Now, where it's like, no, I made like a 6-hour cut of this movie and we had to cut it down to like 3 and then whatever, and then there's the redo and there's this, that, and the other. To hear that he made a cut of the movie that's only 2 hours and they said, no, it needs to be fucking longer, is wild to me. Like, no, we need more. And it's the studio's involvement of why it's so fucking long. Mm-hmm. And I get it, because it's like a multi-generational tale that you're telling from the first generation that we meet in the beginning in 1 all the way to the third generation in 3. Mm. It's just wild to me that they're like, no, we need more. We want more story from you. And to like, as far as like Francis Ford Coppola goes as a director, I also didn't know that there was that much like improv in the movie. Mm-hmm. A lot of that movie is improv or improvised. Like when Sonny's beating up that guy, a lot of that is improvised. Him hitting him with the trash can lid. And I for what I know about Francis Ford Coppola, I feel like I might be confusing him and the guy who did The Shining,
Kubrick. Stanley Kubrick.
Of being like, no, it has to be this way. It has to be that. And we have to do 30 takes of everything.
That's Kubrick.
Yeah. So I might be mistaken with that, but like,
I mean, Coppola might be that way too.
He might.
He's very much like a stickler for the way he
that's
wants
what I
things
always
done.
thought.
I feel like some of the best directors are.
Sure, yeah. And
perfectionist.
But for it to
Yeah.
be
That's what I
that
should say.
long, and then he'd be like, I made probably something that was closer to Goodfellas, of like a very digestible amount of movie, and then for them to be like, no, we need like another hour in each segment.
Yeah, which is
make it like a
wild, because I
12
feel
hour.
like nowadays, if they were to do that, they'd be like, well, let's just make two films and get more money.
Especially if they're
Split it
like,
up.
the budget. It's all
Yeah.
about the budget, and they're like, no, we need more.
Yeah.
We spent so much on it, we need more now.
Yeah.
Which is wild to me.
Yeah, he wanted to do his thing, and that's good that you brought up Goodfellas, because they both play a part in the second one, because like who he picked to direct, like got shot down by Paramount. We'll get into that. Do we have any more?
I have one thing. Okay. So I asked Joseph this question when we were watching it, and the question was, do you think that The Godfather highlights your stereotypical Italian-American mobster movies? Yes or no? And the only reason why I asked him is, so when I was doing my research for the movie, I know you brought it up that there was a lot of backlash for this movie to come out. So before The Godfather, in Hollywood, Italian-Americans were always depicted, and this is quote-unquote from a newspaper article that I read, as unflinchingly murderous mobsters or simple-minded people with thick accents. So this is the first movie in Hollywood where you have Italian Americans, or you have Michael, who's educated. They don't have the thick accent. They're not in their sleazy outfits like they were. Their hair's not like slick back, greasy, whatever look that they were. And then you have that their whole world does not revolve around spaghetti and meatballs and murdering people and stuff. So
no, yeah, there
were
were
murders.
Yeah, he was the best guy around. They were very worried about that when the movie came out, that it would be a very stereotypical racist depiction of Italian American people. And I think that he did a decent job being like, no, I don't want to film that movie. Like you said, I want it to be about the family and tell this tale of a single family with one sort of catalyst that ripples through time.
Yeah.
And that shows, in my opinion.
Yeah, he always said that this movie, family based, it's a metaphor for capitalism in America. And that was what he was going for, not just to be like the Italian mafia, they're monsters and they kill people. And
bang, bang, bang.
It wasn't supposed to be about that. It was originally Paramount, that's what they wanted, was just a straight up gangster movie. And Francis was just like, there's more to tell.
Yeah, I think about it because I'm like, when you think like mobster movies, or if you want to like gangster mobs, however you want to like they technically, I think, classified this as like a crime epic. I think is what they classify it as, which is technically true. But I never see it. I've never really like, now that going back, I don't really see it that way. I purely see it as just like a character study, almost like autobiographical, even though like obviously it's not a real person. Maybe they took influence from real people, but yeah, which I'm sure. Yeah. But I see it morally based on like, this is a great piece of cinema for like when you're teaching, future, like directors, actors, or anything like that. This is a perfect movie to kind of show all of those different pieces. 'Cause you're not watching like how crime goes down. You're not watching people just get like murdered. You're literally watching like a rise and a fall, especially once we get into the second one. That's, purely what it is. But, yeah, you're watching a man, you're watching a family basically run their personal and business, if you will. So it's not really like gangster, if you will. Like, yeah, there's aspects to it, and that's what they are. But
it's definitely filmed like what you said, like as a Shakespearean tragedy.
Yeah.
And that's how I talked to Joseph. I was like, I don't see it like, to me, like if I'm thinking of watching like a stereotypical like mobster movie, I'm not watching somebody going around to like the different shops and breaking people's legs for like gambling debts or something. I feel like you see like Don Corleone never physically get violent with anyone, and instead, for the first one at least, he just builds like quote unquote a network of friends that he trades favor with. Like, I feel like you never really see him do anything wrong in the first one.
Well, that's the benefit of being a Don. You don't have to anymore.
You have other people do it for you.
Well, yeah, but then also you see a lot from the first one too, that like Vito is very much like into, and then the second one you see where that builds is like he's doing like a give and take of favors. Yeah. Where I feel like Michael never really is doing that kind of favor. Like because he's just kind of taking, he's not giving as well.
Taking, because I think they had both had different views. I think Michael misinterpreted what Vito was doing. He wants to legitimize the business, where Vito was just trying to be like, you help me, I help you. We could all do this together.
Yeah.
And where Michael was just like, I'm just trying to make this family serious, and it ends up blowing up in his face, which then we get into the second one.
I feel like with this one too, like you kind of see them like humanize them itself. Like you see them do like regular like things that normal people do. They're going shopping for Christmas gifts. They're having dinner as a family, celebrating their daughter's wedding. Like you see them like, I think it adds a lot to like their character development too as well. Like you just see them doing normal things. That's all I got.
Yeah. With that being said,
I had one small little like insignificant. I'm sorry.
That's why I was like hesitant on saying.
Sorry, no. I don't really always have like fun facts, so I just did like, this is the first time I really kind of like looked into something, and it was for the wedding scene in the beginning, the song that they sing, which I will now butcher the title of because I am not Italian, but it's Si la luna mezzo mauve. I'm probably the only one.
Close enough.
Yeah, and it's translates loosely to "There's a moon amid the sea," and it's about a young woman wondering about marriage with various tradesmen. And I just found that song was a very good choice for the marriage that was happening, and obviously what happens with Connie and her marriage, and then I feel like it's also translating into the storyline as well of just like the wonderance of like, is this the right choice? Is this the right path kind of thing? And I feel like that kind of sets up for like the whole rest of the saga. So, and they also play it in Mets games, which is fun if you're a Mets fan.
They also play in a lot of like Italian restaurants too.
I know Joseph's a Mets fan, so that's why I mentioned it.
So let's review this bad boy. Who wants to start this off?
I'll go first because I'll just get it out of the way. So you guys
I'm so excited.
2.
No.
How bad is this gonna be?
My heart.
2.5.
Broke my heart, Mooney. You gave it a 2.
Broke my heart, Mooney.
I will reinstate that I think it's a good movie. I understand the significance of it. I think cinematography is great. Acting is great. I think even like the score of the movie, it's very well made. I understand the significance of it in like our history, and like it's like we mentioned in like the Back to the Future podcast, like this is one of the movies that are constantly mentioned. I don't even know, 50 years later, if I did my math right. I think I'm right. 50 plus ish years later.
Little over 50.
no,
Yeah,
Well, yeah,
little
because the
50.
second one is the
52?
50th.
50, yeah.
Well, as we
She's
stated
right.
at the beginning of the podcast, it's the
First one's
50th
50,
anniversary.
That one came out
Yeah.
74 or 72,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
52.
I had to think real hard about it. I was like, oh no, yeah, 50.
I tried to remember what the tattoo on your arm was like. Number. I think it was good. I had a problem with the length, but that's just my own personal problem with long movies. I enjoyed watching it this time around. Did I get bored at times? Yes. Did I doze off for a second or two? Yes. Because of that, I will give this movie a 3.75. You guys have fun with that. It's not as low as you thought it would be.
That probably is going to be wild.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun
have,
topic to put together.
we have a 3.75
Because
already.
I
we?
gave one. I
You
gave
did
one
it.
time 3.75.
So I'm just
I don't remember what movie, but
When are we going to start getting like the 3.88724?
let me get that
That's what you guys wrote on your
3.276.
Give it a 3.14.
I kind of want Mooney's scaling to like change
the
of
joy
like
of the-
based on how many times she's picked up her cell phone. Like I give it 3 out of 5 cell phone pickups or whatever.
Well, I've said that on many occasions that
He
I can't,
has.
Oh,
I
yeah.
can't wait for when we have our wiki out there, and it's like how many
Fun
times.
facts, though.
Yeah, the fun facts, the what we've rated everything, the Mooney score of phone.
Pickups.
I can't
Yeah.
wait for that to all be a thing. Whoever decides to do that out in the world.
We'll already say this. I did have my phone while we were watching the second one, but I was taking my notes down on the second one. So
Yeah, I
that's
did
what my
too,
phone
yeah.
was
So that's
used
fair.
for. That's
Yeah.
what it was
That's
used
fair.
for.
That's fair.
You can't hold it
3.75.
against me, Joseph.
She was really shopping on Zara.
No,
No, I
hold,
wasn't.
Hold the 3.75 on you, please.
3 points. It's not bad. It's not bad.
It's not bad.
It's not bad.
It's passing?
no,
It's higher than other movies that have been on this list.
it's not bad.
It doesn't
Those
hurt.
who will not be
It doesn't
named is
hurt
higher
as much
than-
as other ones.
I mean, alien.
Okay, I wasn't going to mention it. but
Always
sure.
comes back to aliens.
We try not to.
Yeah.
Ryan, you want to hit that one?
Aliens?
No.
I think it's a great movie. No, I agree. I feel like this is a hard thing for like a casual moviegoer to just jump into, and it's a lot of movie to take in because it's not
So
like you
good.
can just watch the first one. Like you have to complete the series in order for it to be like, oh, I kind of get it. It's an overarching story that takes place over a multi-generational family that yada yada yada. And the first one, I do feel it is shot in a certain way that is very interesting. I think that the set design is very interesting. The way that it's lit is even like the attention to detail to that is crazy. That they're like, it's very dark. It's too dark. And he's like, no, it's dark because of this. And it's because of the shady dealings that the Corleone family has. And I'm like, okay, well, all right. Maybe they should have put a little more light. I don't know. But like that scene where out, like you said, outside of the hospital, and he's like, no, just act menacing. And there's that car pulls up and you don't even know who the person is in the passenger seat, but you know, but that dark shadow figure just appears and
It's
then
more
just,
menacing.
and then they just move on. I give this a 4. I think I think that it was hindered that they were like, no, we want more movie. And I think that's the main issue for me is like a pacing thing, and that's about it. So I give it a 4.
I don't feel that bad now about my 3.75.
4 straight up, easy.
No.
Solid movie for sure.
I guess I'm going next
Marissa
because
or
I'm
Joseph?
assuming we're going to save Joseph for last for this
Save it
one.
for the last one.
That's all good.
You know, just
It's not going to be that riveting.
Is it not going to be that riveting, or is it because we already know what you
I
what we
feel
think?
like you and anybody watching, we know what my score is.
It's a 0.
This is probably one of those movies, like I mentioned before, like I saw this when I was in like junior high. I saw this on my own regard, like by myself, and I just like randomly decided to like, this is when like Blockbuster was around and they were doing like that thing where you could like purchase like a monthly thing and you could just rent out movies, and like that's why I decided to do this and just get all of them in one day and do it. I didn't know anything about it before. I knew that it was like highly like respected as a movie. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like it, and I think now that I've seen it like multiple times and like going back and looking at it from like I guess a reviewing standpoint, I just appreciate it even more. I think it's a great like I've been saying, great character piece. I just love watching these characters and looking at it from different angles, perspectives, kind of focusing more so on people like the next time I'm watching it, I'm sure I'll watch like Tom Moore or something like that. There's never a time where I'm thinking about this movie and watching it and being like, oh, do we have to watch this? Like, this is a great piece. I think I'm not going to get too much again once into the third one, but like, I don't think that the third is necessary. I think 1 and 2 were perfectly fine. I think maybe once we get into the second one, we could talk about length and chopping it up a bit, but like, in terms of like a great first movie, I think you could even watch the first movie and not even watch the second one if you are, say, a casual moviegoer, like you said. It's a great first movie. I think all the actors did a phenomenal job. I know it was nominated for a bunch of different Academy Awards, and it won, not basing Academy Award nominations on how successful and great the film is. But overall, I think it's a great movie. I always have a great time. It always captures my attention. I'm always looking at different things and looking at it from different perspectives. I'm going to give this movie a 5.
Damn.
I love Godfather. Yeah, I was like, I love Godfather. I can't not love it.
Our other perfect score.
Yeah.
It's your second perfect score.
Just put it on the record.
Hey, you gotta give it where it gives.
Speaking of Oscars, it did win Best Picture, Best Screenplay, and Best Actor for Marlon Brando.
Not director, but was nominated.
For Best.
And then it was nominated for Best Supporting for 3, but did not win.
No.
Because that was Cabaret, right? That was Cabaret year?
Cabaret
Yeah.
won a bunch of stuff.
Cabaret, yeah.
But
Damn you, Cabaret.
But that's also crazy to me for somebody who can't even remember their lines. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, he literally, there's a picture of, was it Robert Redford? Who's Tom?
Robert Duvall.
Robert Duvall has literally the lines
written
taped
on
to his
his
fucking chest,
so Marlon can,
so that he can stand in front of him blocking in this scene, and he can just read the lines off of it.
and that was basically why Paramount didn't want Brando to be in the film. The only reason Brando got the film is because Francis went to a remote location to film Brando as a test screening to sell it to Paramount to be like, Marlon Brando will play the role. And then even then he was a headache, and it plays more into the second one too, why he isn't in that one. Very specific reason. We'll get into it. Just the Paramount thing is just a headache in its own thing. But The Godfather, my review, this movie sucks. No, I'm just kidding. I love this film. I love the acting. I love the directing. I love the character arc for many of these characters in this film. The theme song is just fucking beautiful. It's been around for years, decades, centuries now. I love the movie. It's
Centuries.
It's such a good. I could watch that movie anytime, any day, any time of the year. So I'm at a 5 out of 5.
Hey.
I love this film. I think storytelling wise, it's Francis hit that note, and I'm glad that he was able just to fight off Paramount to make the movie that he wanted to make, not what they wanted to make, because I think in the long run, it ended up being one of the greatest films ever made, in my opinion. So I'm at a 5 out of 5. And with saying that, we will now go into The Godfather
I was like,
2.
Holy
I was just gonna be like, I'm really disappointed that during one of our reviews, none of us was just like, you know what? I don't like it. I didn't finish it. It insists upon itself. I like the money pit.
The Godfather fucking sucks.
Yeah, I like the money pit. I didn't even finish The Godfather.
It's too fucking long. Knock it off. What are you doing?
Oh,
Oh,
it's a
I love that family.
I love
When
that.
they're about to
It
die,
insists
It insists upon itself.
What do you mean? It's one of the greatest.
I like the money pit. I like the money pit.
So that being said, The Godfather 2, $13 million budget, only made $95 million in the box office. A
Fooled me.
big decrease from the first one. A lot of issues also making this film. Al Pacino didn't want to come back when he read the first script for this film, to the point where Francis had to rewrite the movie overnight to sell it on to Al Pacino to come back. Marlon Brando was supposed to return for the birthday flashback scene. He agreed to come back, did not show up because, according to him, because he felt mistreated by Paramount and no longer wanted to work with Paramount Pictures. The thing that sucks and is shitty is that he agreed to come and just no-showed. And they just filmed with it. James Caan returns as Sonny in the flashback scene because he got a deal where he would get paid the same amount that he did in the first one for one scene.
Wow.
Yes. So he got the same amount of money he got in the first one for just
Legit.
doing that.
Good for you,
one,
James Caan. Rest
scene.
in peace.
And when Francis was writing the script, his plan and his idea was to have Martin Scorsese direct the film. Paramount refused to do that.
Interesting.
They wanted Coppola
Oh.
to film it. Scorsese was down to do it. He loved the script. He was all in. The cast was all in.
moving around.
And at the last minute, Paramount was just like, nah, we want you to do it. If you're going to write it, if you're going to be a part of it, we want you to do it. So Martin Scorsese obviously made his own few movies. But yeah, that's what Francis' vision was. It was just to be kind of like the George Lucas role. That's what he wanted to do.
I'll do one, I'll set out the story.
Yes, and then I'll carry it out to somebody else. Yeah, but Paramount was like, no, if you're not doing it, then we're not doing a second one.
Yeah, they really wanted that book done.
Yeah. So yeah, the second one, a kind of prequel sequel.
Yeah.
Takes place in two different timelines. The movie starts with the young Vito dealing with mafia stuff in Italy. We find out in the beginning with that dialogue or the written words happening in the beginning of the film that his father is killed by the Don in that Italian city. His brother Paolo goes out for revenge. He's murdered during his father's funeral. His mom tries to get him saved, and he's like, no, he's gonna come back for revenge, which is true as a thing. And he's able to escape and go to New York City. And that's where the movie takes place. So my question to you guys, what are your thoughts of it being a prequel sequel? Did it add or take away from the film? Did you think it added too much?
I feel like it adds.
Okay.
In my opinion, I feel like it sheds light on like before the movies, if that makes sense. Like it gives enough backstory to show like where Vito comes from. And like also to piggyback off my own topic, to show the immigration process with Italian Americans coming to America in that time frame.
Mm-hmm. I agree with Ryan. I think it definitely added to the movie. And honestly, the prequel part, probably one of my favorite parts of the entire movie. I really enjoyed kind of just like learning like all the questions that I had for the first one was like slowly answered. Just like, do you remember that guy you asked questions about? That's him. Do you remember this one? Yeah, that's him. And I was like, oh, okay.
It's all coming together.
It's coming together, and I really enjoyed like the whole complex narrative, and I like how you get like as deep as you can get in like a 3-hour movie of like a character development. And I think this movie does a phenomenal job of like interweaving two timelines and see how like the two timelines kind of connect with each other, but also are different, but show like the parallel universe between younger Vito Corleone and like Michael Corleone. Where's that?
Oh, me.
It's me.
I didn't know he was asking like individual. I thought he was just like generalizing question.
We're just all putting weight.
No, when Joseph, when you were talking about how the first one is very Shakespearean, this is my Shakespearean one. Like this is the one where it's like you're very much getting like, this is why I keep saying like the rise and the fall. Like you're seeing Vito's rise in parallel to Michael's fall. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like, it's a great comparison. Like I always go back and forth between like, okay, do I want, a separate movie where you're just seeing Vito's rise and then a separate movie where we're just seeing Michael's fall? And I feel like that would have been okay had they done like the prequel part with Robert De Niro as the first movie, and then The Godfather, the first one, as like a second movie, and then The Fall as the third movie. So you get that full like arc. But since they didn't go that route, I feel like you almost have to have them together, which is kind of not great because then it adds and makes it a longer film. Because now we're at 3 hours and 20 minutes?
Yes.
Which is like, it's long to ask for. I mean, like, this is a movie that has an intermission.
I was about to say.
Which is wild.
We were watching it. And
yeah, I totally forgot. I totally forgot it even had an intermission.
And we just started laughing.
Yeah,
like, pause
we gotta do like, I wish I would have looked it up, like how many movies actually have an intermission. I know Gone with the Wind is one of them.
King Kong.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, I know this. I never saw King Kong, so I don't know. Sorry.
I feel like I have 2 copies over there in the case, still wrapped.
I would think that Citizen Kane might have one. I think Ben-Hur might have one.
Yes,
I'm sure it's like older movie. Yeah, I was like, I'm sure besides King Kong, I'm sure they're mostly like older movies, because I'm sure nowadays if a movie is too long, they'll just be like, fuck it, split it up into 2. We'll make double the funds.
The attention span of today's culture is wild.
But that's why I think it's so interesting, and I'm glad that Mooney brought up like the interesting how long movies are, because I feel like in order to captivate somebody's attention, especially with this generation, you do have to kind of like hit the ground running. You have to have kind of almost like a jump scare from the get-go. You have to have something that's kind of shocking and like pulls you in, just like a good book would, by giving you that first line that really just gets you into something like this, because if you're not hooked from the beginning, like why waste how much time?
Why would you commit?
Yeah.
I want to add to your point because I agree with you about if you kind of split the movie where you have like the prequel part be its own. So I told Joseph that, and he said that I don't know if it's an official release. Somebody made like an official video or it's like an unofficial, but somebody clipped.
Ryan's ready.
Go ahead.
Somebody made the movie from like where they basically compiled. I don't know if it's the first two or all three, but put it together as like one full clip, one full movie where you can watch it all like happen.
It is.
Right?
It is all one movie. It was edited by them.
Oh, they made it.
Yes.
Okay.
And then for like I want to say it was like maybe 10 to 15 years ago that they did like a halfway. It was one of the anniversaries of the movie that it's a whatever edition where it's all in chronological order.
See, I would have enjoyed watching.
I think you might have really
That.
liked that because you would have
I
seen.
love the prequel part.
every
the Rise of
Yeah,
Vito.
yes, and it's
Yeah.
the perfect overarching story.
How long is that movie though?
It
like
is
6 hours.
I remember I was telling Marissa, I was like, I remember looking at it and be like,
Like
what the
6
hell
hours
is this?
or something.
And I like clicked on like guide because it was on HBO at the time, and I remember hitting like info and like just scrolling, and it was the one chunk just the whole day. It
Is
was
it
one.
all three movies or just the first
It's all three in chronological
Damn.
order.
That's
But they've edited it so you start with De Niro and the story of blah blah blah.
How he gets there.
Yeah. Like the funeral scene into just.
Yeah. I
number
think there
three,
is something to be
basically.
said too here, like now that we're kind of, touching base a little bit with like prequels, like because we are a sequel podcast. I think like we kind of touched up based on like our very first episode talking about prequels, but like, at what point is a prequel, is the original, is a sequel, like, because obviously nowadays like origin movies are becoming such a huge thing. Like at what point, do the original movies, become
the sequels.
like the sequels? Like, is there, I'm sure like maybe at one point it was or still is, like, is there an idea to have a full blown like Vito Corleone movie where you see like him growing up and like the full, like, yeah, we see it in the movie here, but like, are they just going to expand upon that, get some different actors, make a whole thing of it? Like, is there possibility to do, an episode or a mini series, based on, like maybe now like, what's his name? Andy Garcia.
Oh shit! You mean his character in the movie?
Yeah, the third one.
I don't.
I don't remember Sonny's bastard son, but
I know I can't think of his name.
I can't
But
think
like,
of his
yeah,
name now.
but like,
Andy
I'm
Garcia.
Andy Garcia.
yeah, but
Harry
Andy Garcia's character.
Also Andy
Is it Anthony? It's not Anthony.
No, Anthony's Michael's son.
Yeah,
Opera
that's right.
singer,
That's what I
right?
keep getting it confused.
They might both be named Anthony. I don't know.
Let's see.
I don't know.
No, I don't think that it's.
Or
Anthony.
it's-
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
yeah.
But anyway, but like I'm just saying, like at what point, like are we, going to be talking about why?
Frantic typing.
I know, just like they're trying to look it up. It's not Anthony, isn't he? I forget. It doesn't matter.
Either way,
Doesn't matter.
continue with
Either
your
way.
thing. We'll
Yeah.
tag it at the end.
But I'm glad we're discussing this because this is kind of like a back and forth of like, is this technically a prequel now or is it a sequel? It is both, because we're going back and forth between, but it's not necessarily a full blown prequel. This is more so to just kind of show, I think, like a transition and or a contrast, if you will, of
Vincent.
different Vincent. Oh,
Vincent.
that's right. But yeah, you're seeing this, very much back and forth between two different characters.
I think it's very yin yang, where you're seeing
Yeah.
one side of the coin, you're seeing the other, where it's just like he did what he had to do to make it. At some point, you don't think Vito really wants to be involved in stuff like that, because like the first scene where like, Clemenza throws him the guns, and he puts it into the bathtub, and he just like looks at it and kind of does one
He
disease.
does his little Robert De Niro kind of.
The rubber, yeah, but then it ends up getting the carpet out of it, which is one of my favorite shots. Is when they're getting the carpet and the cop is knocking on the door, and Clemenza does like the gun thing like this. I love that shot,
scene,
dude.
That shot,
Dude, that
is
shot,
phenomenal.
frame that, I would hang that
Phenomenal.
anywhere, dude. I love that shot where he just has the gun like this, and you see the
You
cop
okay?
shadow.
You're right there.
Oh no!
That scene is amazing.
Yes, the scene where you see like the cop shadow outside the door, and you just see Clemenza just do one of these, and
Yes.
it pans out,
Yes.
and it just stretches in the way that I love it. And then De Niro's reaction to the whole time, just being like, "I shouldn't be here," and then it just
Just in
cuts to
this
them
house,
walking
dude.
with
Oh,
the
yeah.
fucking carpet back to like his place. I love that scene. I think it's a great moment where I think he is starting to be like, "All right, well, I helped him." And I think that's when he realized I helped him, he helped me. If this is what it has to be, to get my family forward, especially because he had just lost his job.
Yeah.
I feel like
Because of the Black Hand.
the
whatever.
Black Hand was like, my nephew needs a job, so like he fires Vito, and Vito, even when like he's trying to give him like the bread, and Vito's like, no, I don't want it. Like, it's all good.
Marissa said that when he's walking over, like, like I feel terrible, like I have to do this. He goes, no, I understand. You respected me. I'll never forget that. You did a solid for me. And he comes out with that basket of just all these groceries and like everything your family would need. He goes, no, I can't accept it.
No.
And then as soon as he walks away, Marissa's like, damn, it's a good man right there.
Yeah, because I think he established that when he tells them, you were like a father to me. And I think to Vito, that was already enough for him. I don't.
Well, and he saw like the interaction of like he kind of forced his hand, like. You know,
he had no choice.
Yeah, he had no choice. He knew, like, based out of fear.
But I think that's why Vito mentions the father thing, being like, you already did enough. Like, you gave me a job. You've been here for me since I've been here. We're good. Don't worry about it. Don't give me bread. Like, I'm good. Like,
you
I'll
already
figure
did
things
enough
out
for me because it's my family. Blah blah blah.
And I think he slowly realizes, like, okay, if I do services for some people, they will have my back. I will take your guns. Now I have a carpet. How can I keep?
But that was the other thing too. Is like, what's just hide this for me.
Yeah.
What is that worth? A carpet. Is that worth it enough?
I think
his wife really wanted that carpet.
Yes, sure. But I was just like, fucking carpet, bro. Like,
so I always saw it as like,
it's
I just
not more
lost,
than that, but a carpet.
I think I always saw it as like, I just lost my job, and my wife's probably gonna be stressing. So let me get rid of this carpet that we probably can't afford.
Yeah.
So let me just.
It's also true that it's in the 1900s.
Yes.
To keep that in mind as well.
And I think that that's a great, like, this is a great, like, side-by-side time frame as well, because obviously, like, all these people are giving in to Don Fanucci, I think is right, we call it, is his name? The guy in the white suit. Yeah, the hand. Yeah, the hand. Because this is during a time where, like, people are very afraid, and, a lot of people are looking for that protection, and basically he's kind of, like, stating that, like, oh, like, you don't want anything bad to happen to you, right? So you'll pay me this money kind of thing, and then here comes... Vito Corleone basically to say like, I'm going to do the same thing, but like mine's in term of like favors.
Yes. And like, why is he, his like dialogue to, I forget what the other guy's name is who gave him the carpet, right? Was like, why is he doing this to other Italians?
Yeah. Why is he
disrespect that's happening?
Why is he taking advantage?
Yeah, like why is he
taking advantage of other Italians, even though he's Italian?
It's because of greed, obviously, because he's like, I'm going to take advantage of these people and be like, no, I'm your protection.
Yeah. He's bigger. They view him as stronger, even though there was a deleted scene where he's getting jumped, and they took it out of the film because it made him look weak. Which obviously, it's a scene where he's getting jumped, but De Niro kind of watches from a distance, and I think that's supposed to signify where De Niro's like, we can get to him. Like, he's not untouchable.
I think it's better the way they handled it.
I'm glad that's
we are cut. 3, he is 1.
There's another scene that's deleted, and we'll get into it, that I wish was in it, just the sake of the storyline, because of what is happening in the present time in that film with Hyman Roth. I'll just get into it now. There was a deleted scene of the flashbacks where Hyman Roth introduces himself to Vito Corleone back in the past, which I feel would have fit with the present time in that film because of how many times Hyman Roth mentions Michael's dad. Like, he makes sure to always be like, your father's trucks. Your father was cool with that. Your father this. And I think Michael mentions it too. He thinks he's my father and I'm a successor, but he just wants to live more because he wants to be immortal. And he's more jealous that I have the time and he doesn't. So that's why I brought it up in the first one, being like, when Vito's like, there's not enough time. I feel like Hyman Roth is a significant fixture of that statement because he's going to die, but he just doesn't want to. And he's selfish at that point, being like, I'm not going to give anybody anything. It should be mine. He's like, why should I give it to this young up-and-coming kid, to him, even though he's my friend's son? And I think, what's his name? I can't forget his name. Homeboy that in the bathtub.
Oh, I forgot. Was it
Pentagarli?
I forget his name, but Frankie Pentangelo?
Frankie Pants?
It's something like that. It's Pentangelo or something.
We call him Frankie Pants.
But he always...
Frankie Pentangeli? Pentangeli.
He mentions it. He's like, your father worked with Hyman Roth, but your father never trusted Hyman Roth. And I think that, especially in the beginning of the film, it signifies that like Hyman Roth is just going to be a scumbag at some point, but we just don't know how it's going to play out. And even Michael gets sloppy because he doesn't know what's going to play out. Like, a lot of things that Michael does in this film kind of backfires as well.
Yeah.
Like,
trying to kill the one guy and then... But it's like almost like someone's one step ahead of him.
There's always an answer to everything.
Yes.
They kill Johnny Ola.
Because he's like, has
They
the
want,
pillow,
yeah, they want to kill. They choke out Johnny Ola, then they want to suffocate
There you go.
Hyman Roth. Doesn't work out. Cops show up, kill his Luca Brasi.
But they were going right there.
Yes.
Like, we know what's happening.
And while this is all happening, Michael was just thinking that it's all going to be fine. Like the first one, when the baptism scene, he thinks he's going to have that again. Doesn't work out, and then he realizes that, well, Fredo. And Fredo gives himself up.
Yeah.
Because the whole time, the first interaction between him and Johnny Ola in Cuba, you're just like, no, we have never met. And then like 2 scenes later, yeah, Johnny Ola brought me here.
Yeah.
Old Hyman Roth
Johnny
never come to
Ola's
this
the
place.
one where they murder with the curtains, right?
Yes.
Where he comes through. I love that scene
Yes,
too.
because you don't, like, he's just opening the patio.
Well, it's
and
just
he's
like
out
such a
there.
great use of like just an on-scene like prop. I'm just gonna let him go. Yeah, I was
Let him
like,
go.
let him go.
Yeah, because that dude to me was like, that's his Luca Brasi. And that's who he's using as the guy to just murk people. But yeah, it doesn't work out. Like everything he tries to do is just backfiring. And until even the point where Kay is like, it was an abortion, Michael. I would never bring him into another Sicilian thing. Like
Oh, I
it's
love
just
that
so
scene.
many scenes where it's just like, well, Vito, we're getting these flashback scenes of Vito's rise. Just everything around Michael is crumbling.
Yeah.
And to the point where Connie is like, I want to be here for you, Michael. I want to be to take care of you, because she realizes like it is what it is at this point. Fredo's pretty much out. Well, is out. And even when
Outs himself.
outs himself
Yeah.
until like the mom dies, and then he tries to bring him up. But even then, there's that scene where he's hugging Fredo and he looks at Rocco and he's just like, it's time. Get rid of
Has to
him.
be
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I always brought up, like, I love the way the first film starts and I love the way this ends, because it's just a total twist of what has happened in this entire journey for Michael, from not wanting to be a part of this to now losing every fucking thing. His marriage, his brothers, his mom, his dad, his everything. It's just, like we said, Shakespearean tragedy.
Yeah.
So
I read an article like in the midst of like us rewatching these movies, and it was specifically saying like when you're watching like both movies, if not like the second one for sure, don't necessarily look into what Michael's character is saying, but like look at his eyes, and that's like that tells you like so much more of like what's going on and how he's feeling and what's happening to him, and like his like process of like how he like reacts to certain things. And I think it's really imperative, like especially in scenes where like Fredo kind of basically is like, oh yeah, I don't know this guy, but he like looks at him like, wait a minute, like there's something, obviously you guys know each other kind of thing. And then, you know, obviously the whole scene where he admits that Johnny brings him to that club, and he's kind of like, you know, you even see him just in the background of just like he's putting his hand to his face like, oh my god, like he realizes that Fredo is a traitor. So I mean, just like maybe not for you guys, but like for anybody who's watching, like if you haven't watched The Godfather and specifically like looked at Michael's eyes the whole time, like I implore you to rewatch it that way, because you view it so much more differently.
It tells its own story.
Yeah, like his acting, like I'm like almost, I don't think he won Best Actor for this. I don't believe.
De Niro was the only one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he might have
As
been
he should.
nominated, but he didn't win.
Al Pacino was nominated.
He was
Yeah, he was nominated, but he
yeah.
didn't win. But like, I feel like his eyes speak more than like his actual acting, which like even in this one, I think that's like the one thing I'm not super big on is just like his like random outbursts that happen, because like his character's not necessarily known for that. Like that was more of like a Sunny thing where like just the anger pops out, but maybe.
I think maybe it might even be the pressure of just being the Godfather.
Yeah.
And like what
I
he has
mean,
to put up
maybe
with.
'cause,
And
yeah,
then
like-
the
well,
fact
like-
that Kay tells him that.
Yeah, like the K thing, like he
And he's
just,
just
like yeah, because he's always just known for being so calm. So maybe it's just more jarring that way that he just lashes out. Like obviously, you know, he's upset, you know, and he's like distraught by her saying this. But because that scene is great as well, because she's just like, you know, obviously you're not seeing what's going on. Like you lost
you
me.
find
Like
out when he finds out.
yeah, like I feel like he lost Kay the second he went to Italy.
Well, and then I guess my argument to that is that maybe you don't know Michael as well as you think you do, because at the very end of the first one, it ends with him lying to Kay,
Yeah.
and he's just like, no, I didn't. She's like, oh, that's so great, and he's like, yeah.
Well, because I think Michael's character, like his innocence, died with Apollonia.
that's a great
Yes.
point too.
Yeah,
that's
like
a
I
great
always-
observation.
I think I
Yeah.
always viewed Kay as like he knew she was a for sure thing, because she kept writing letters, and he knew like I have to grow the family.
Yeah.
The bloodline has to continue. I have to have more sons to take the mantle. So I think he views Kay as just like she's there. She's almost
She's gonna
a
have
guarantee.
kids.
The baby
Yeah.
If I proposition
The baby
marriage,
maker.
we will have our family.
Mm-hmm.
And I think his whole thing is he's in control. When she tells him I'm leaving Michael, he loses the control. Like it ends there.
Well, no, he I don't think he ever loses the control from her. Like he takes the control because she's stating like, I'm taking the kids from you, and he's like, no, like I have the power.
Exactly.
You think I'm gonna let that happen? Like you're crazy. If I'm gonna banish you, and like these are my kids. You're not taking my kids. Like this is my legacy. This is my thing. Like I'm letting you go. Like you can leave, but like you're not taking anything with you. And I think kind of going back to the scene where like you see like she sees the door shutting and the handshake from earlier. There's the scene where she shows up to like secretly see the kids, and he just shuts the door on her. I'm so sorry.
No, I think that's a great.
I'm just getting so choked up.
No, I know. Yeah, I think that's a great observation because you see it from her perspective, and where the door closes from her on the outside, back to in the second one where it's now closing on her, and you're seeing it from the inside.
Yeah,
You've been pushed out.
Mm-hmm.
One way you're getting pushed out, the second way you're getting pushed out a different way.
Yeah, like in that
Like
first.
either way, you're not part of this.
Yeah, the first one we're kind of more with Michael, like we're on this like side of innocence, and we're seeing a door close, but now we're in Michael's shoes where we are the ones pushing the innocence out.
Yeah. Damn.
Character study, man. It's good stuff.
Do we got anything else we want to throw in on this bad boy?
I have one fun fact.
Throw in your fun fact.
So, as of today, Godfather 2 is the only sequel to win Best Picture, and it's the only sequel with its original movie to just do a win Best Picture. So it is the only movie in history so far. So no other sequel.
Sick.
There have been sequels that have been nominated for Best Picture, but they've never won. This is the only sequel that's ever won Best
And
Picture.
De Niro and Brando are the only two actors to ever win an Oscar for playing the same character.
Yes,
Oh,
that is true.
nice. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I know we were looking up, because when we were watching the movie, I was like, is that Robert De Niro's voice? Like, it sounds weird that, like, he's, like, you know, obviously he's, you know, speaking Sicilian? Yeah. And I was like, is that really him speaking or somebody else speaking? And we looked up, like, he had, like, learned, like, Sicilian for 4 months. Like, and he actually, like, he went to Sicily, and, like, he had, like, a speech therapist and everything like that help him. So, like, that actually was him, like, speaking the whole time, which I think is very, like, I like when actors do that. Like, they go out of their way to, like, learn, like, you know, kind of, you know, take it upon themselves more as like a hobby versus just kind of like, oh yeah, I'll just learn the lines kind of thing. Like
and that's my biggest thing with the first one, where Michael is supposed to have this speech with the dad, and they just rewrote it so that he could just speak in English, and the guy translates it to the dad.
Oh.
Whereas, like, if it was De Niro would have learned,
Yeah.
I'll learn Italian, and don't worry, I'll figure that shit out.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like a testament to the craft.
Yeah. I know obviously a big piece of this movie is, we kind of touched on it here and there, is Fredo's betrayal. And I wrote down like kind of two specific scenes with Fredo. There's a scene with Fredo's wife, and she's falling on the floor, and Michael's like, if you, like, basically Michael has one of his people be like, hey, Michael says, if you don't like take care of this, like, he'll take care of it, kind of thing. And Fredo just like doesn't even think about it, like, without even in like a pause, he just goes, yeah, you take care of it for me, kind of thing. And I feel like that's another example of like how Fredo is just like so weak that he can't even handle his own.
Can't control my wife.
He can't control anything.
And
Fredo, yeah.
even that scene, he goes to Michael, it's like, I'm sorry, Michael. And Michael's like, you don't have to apologize to me. You're my brother.
Well, yeah, and that's always been like Michael's wants to get very about the family, like, kind of thing. And it just, yeah, it shows weakness. It shows his submission to Michael, which is why later, another scene where Fredo has that big outburst where he's just like, you don't think, like, you know, I'm angry about being passed over and like all this stuff, and like obviously like it went to you, and like after Sonny and everything like that, like he's basically fighting for power, even though like he's never really put up a front for power. So why would they give it to him in the first place? He's obviously always been the weakest one. Like I kind of mentioned before, they showed the scene where like he's a baby and he has like a sickness and they're like, oh, poor Fredo, he's sick, and you know, everything like that. Sorry.
I can't hear it.
But yeah, like it's hard to respect Fredo. Like I feel like nobody ever respected Fredo. Like it was just because he was the brother.
And it was more so the fact that he
it.
just thought that it was just going to be given to him because he was second.
Yeah.
And it was just like Vito had his plans. Like
yeah.
He always said it. Like it was never going to be Fredo.
It was never going to be Fredo. Yeah. Well, even like I think I was talking to Ryan about this when they showed like the throwback of like even the younger kids playing Sonny, Fredo, and Michael. I was like, one, like great casting. Like they all look just like their older like versions. It's fun.
With the fro, like.
Yeah, like you're like, oh, that's Sonny, yeah, because a little fro. But even when they're like going through and they're doing like the whole olive oil bit, you can see that like Vito is holding Michael and like at the front of the gate versus like Sonny's walking, Fredo's walking, and like I think the mom, I forget the mom's name, but the mom I think is holding
Mama
Connie.
Cornell.
Yeah. I think she's holding Connie at the time. But like he's with Michael like the whole time being like pointing at stuff and looking at stuff. So I always feel like Michael was like the one. Like from the beginning. Like, yeah, he should have had like Sonny holding his hand and being like, hey, look at this, look at this. It's always been Michael from the front. Yeah.
Damn.
Sorry, I just went. No. I have like all my notes on my phone. So
no, for sure. Yeah.
Do you want to review this?
Sorry. I'm sorry. I know Ryan had an issue. I wrote it down for you.
Ooh, oh, thank you.
That you had an issue with one little small scene of this.
Hit me with it.
It was the orange scene. Where he's eating the orange.
That's not even the same movie, is it?
Yeah.
That was the second one, not the third one?
That's how long this movie is. That you don't even remember which movie it is.
It's all a blur. It's just an absence in time.
I was like, do you want to?
No, I can. Because I forget who it was. I guess it was Al Pacino.
It's Michael. It's Michael.
Is eating an orange. And I said, is he fucking eating an orange like an apple? Like he's biting in... Like he's already kind of peeled it, and there's the flesh is just in there, but he's still eating it like a fucking apple.
Like the rest of the peel is around it.
Still, he's just still eating peeled, but he's like,
like what a choice.
I was just like, why? Who eats an orange like that? You
Al
savage.
Wow. Love it.
All right, let's review The Godfather Part II. Who wants to take it?
Are we starting the same way or?
Doesn't matter. We can
want to go from where we just left off and then go from that order. Like I'll go first, then Marissa. Then
okay.
You, then
oh yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah, 5 out of 5. I love these two movies. I like the prequel sequel thing just because I think it added to Michael's downfall while watching Vito's rise. So I loved all that. It's just the Fredo betrayal. It's so impactful, especially with that scene in New Year's in Cuba where he's like, "You broke my heart, you broke my heart." And he just kisses him. It's so impactful. I love seeing just how Michael loses it all to see where this is not what was supposed to happen, and it just happened. And maybe that was his destiny, or maybe that was the mistakes he made on his own. You know, I think Tom being the Don could have been significant if they had done the third one. We talked about it off the pod. Originally, the third one was supposed to be about Tom wanting to take over the family because he loved being the Don so much while Michael was in Cuba that he now is the one that's going to try to take out Michael. But we talked about it being, I would have been more interested if Tom was the one to be like, Michael has lost the way of how the family is run. I know how the family's run because Tom is the closest to Vito in the first movie. So I think that would have been awesome if they went that pathway. Obviously, they didn't, and we'll talk about that at a different time. So yeah, I'm at a 5 out of 5.
I was going back and forth before we reviewed the first one where I was like, oh, do I want to give one a 4 versus a 5 or one a 3 versus 4 kind of thing or trip up and down, because I feel like I'm always oh, the Godfather, first Godfather is the best, but now going back and watching the second one, I don't know, I'm kind of, besides once again a length kind of thing, and then I have smaller issues here and there, I kind of wish they would have brought Tom a little bit more into the fold of just to to sell the third one, which obviously he wasn't in. Other than like maybe getting a little bit more out of him and then length, I feel like this one might be my favorite of the two. So I will also be giving this a 5. I maybe should have given like the first one a 4.5.
And you just got up abruptly and we were like, oh.
I give it a 5.
I think you're like, I wish I would have given 4.5 to the first one, and then you're
Oh, yeah. Well, because I kept going back and I was like, do I give them both a 5? But I mean, like, they both kind of deserve a 5 in their own way. So, 5 for both.
Me? Okay. So for me, I give this movie a 4.5 because I split it between, the reason it gets a 4.5 is because of De Niro's scenes, and the flashback scenes I think were excellently done. The rest of the movies, it's okay, it's great, and all that. So I think De Niro's backlog sort of boosts the rest of the movie for me. 4.5.
You ready for this? Okay.
Terrified.
So like I mentioned in the beginning, I really liked the prequel part of this movie. I really like seeing the rise of Vito Corleone, his flashback scenes. I thought he was great in the movie. I almost didn't recognize him at first, and then I did. I kind of like him a lot more knowing that he went to Italy and he learned how to talk Italian and stuff, which I actually Googled if he actually knew how to speak Italian. And then I just got distracted by other things. Besides the point. One scene that really stood out to me, and it is this scene. So you have Vito in 1920 when he's celebrating the San Girano festival, and then you have Michael in Cuba with the whole Cuban Revolution. I thought the cinematography was great. Acting was superb. If this movie was not almost 3.5 hours long, I would have given it a higher score than what I'm about to give it. I actually give this one a 4 out of 5.
There we go.
It's the best we're gonna do.
I think I would have given it 4.75, like so close to being a perfect movie if it was not that long.
Oh shit!
3.75,
So specific. 4.75.
I would like to give it a 4.372.
I don't think it's a 5 because I don't think it's a perfect movie.
That's a 4.75.
But I gave it a 4, so I was like, it's definitely more than a 4.5. But it's just the length to me. I was just like, it's just so long. But I appreciate it. I think I
can't give it a 5.
I can't give it a 5 because of how long it is. But
it's a long ass movie.
She couldn't give it a 5 even if it wasn't for length.
Maybe we'll never know.
0.25 away.
We would never.
No, I'll give you the 4.
To break my heart, Mooney.
4.
4 for me.
I could take that from you.
4 for me. That's pretty great.
I'll take that.
Yeah.
That's pretty
I'll
great.
take that. With all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody watching at home, comment down below what you feel about The Godfather as a 2 movie or the entire saga. Let us know down below in the comment section. Links and all that down below. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. And we will see you guys next week for another episode of Podcast Sequel.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
Bon nuit.
Thanks for listening. Until next time, the podcast, a show so sublime. Marissa, Mooney, Joseph, and Ryan signing off with glee. Join us next episode for more sequel revelry.